So I'm with the Environmental Geochemistry Group here at the Byrd Polar and Climate Research Center at The Ohio State University. I've been here for about 2 years, or I should say just under 2 years. I'm actually finishing my master's in 2 weeks and starting a PhD in the fall. And really, Byrd Polar is the reason why I came to Ohio. It's one of the leaders in climate and polar research, and it's really great being here and being surrounded by kind of the leaders of the field and having the chance to learn from them and sit down and eat meals and hear about their crazy experiences in the field, what kind of cool science they're up to, and kind of where they see the future of polar research. So I was always really into hanging out outdoors, and as a kid I always played outside. So it's just something that came naturally to me, and in school I was pretty good at science, and I liked going out on field trips and taking chemistry classes, and I took environmental science, and then I was completely sold. We went out into lakes and ponds and sampled, and it was gross and mucky, but I loved it. So it was great, and since then I've kind of stuck on this science track throughout college and now in grad school. So I study geochemistry, specifically looking at sediment that blows around in Antarctica. In Antarctica, there's the McMurdo dry valleys, and this is the largest ice-free area. So any sediment that's blowing around Antarctica is likely coming from these dry valleys, but we're not really sure. So other places in the world, like in Panama or even in China, sediment that's deposited on glaciers or even in rainforests comes as far as Africa and Panama, or the Tibetan Plateau and some high glaciers in China. So we really want to know where this dust essentially is coming from and what kind of role it plays in the environment in Antarctica. So knowing where this dust comes from, I think would help in a lot of different ways. So Antarctica right now, and specifically the dry valleys, is the best analogy we have on Earth to somewhere like Mars. So the conditions in Antarctica are very similar to those on Mars, including wind patterns. So no surface water exists on Mars, but they have ice caps just like on Earth. So if we can understand what this dust can really do for the ecosystem, what it can do even in terms of short-term melting, we can start to predict whether there'll be some short-term surface water on Mars. And then it also gives us a better understanding of connectivity of different environments on Earth. Antarctica right now has strong polar winds that circle the continent, and it really is isolated from the rest of the world. But if we can understand how or like where this dust is coming from, maybe it's coming from outside, and we already know in some environments on the peninsula that we're getting seeds that are blowing in from places like South America or even Australia. And so we know that there's some sort of connectivity within these environments. So really we just want to understand how all these parts of the globe are connected. A lot of my work involves going to Antarctica, putting up these aeolian collectors, and that sounds easy, but it's not. Hiking around in Antarctica is really tough. So a lot of my work, if I go down there, is either helping out in the lab, so analyzing samples there, or hiking around the dry valleys. So this is up and down moraines and hills, and then once these samples come back here, it's a lot of chemistry. So looking and doing leaches, let's say, to see what sort of stuff is soluble on this windblown material. Then taking that water and running it for nutrients or anions, cations, pretty much anything we can just to get a better idea. So it's a lot of lab work. Then we can take the whole sediment and grind it up and then look at what's there in terms of mineralogy, bulk chemistry, strontium, neodymium isotopes, any kind of isotopes that we can do. So aside from long and actually quite nice hikes, once you're back here in the US, it's a series of lab work and modeling and math, but it's fun and I really like it.